Okay, so let's go ahead and finish talking about home burial. So I was talking about how this is alluding to the way that men and women, or in this particular case, this particular woman and her husband, express grief, and some of these things, if you look at real life connections, a lot of these things resonate really with real life. That many times we don't find comfort from the other individuals. We find, because there's too much emotion there. There's a lot of emotional baggage there. We often look for support from other people. And then again, they're talking about the differences in terms of how they're communicating, and they're not looking at each other's perspective, and that's where they have a lot of their challenges in terms of relating to one another. For example, her fingers move the latch for all reply. And so then he says, my words are nearly always an offense. No matter what I say, it's going to offend you. It offends you. I don't know how to speak of anything so as to please you. So he's not saying the things that she wants to hear or knows how to hear. But I might be taught, I should suppose. I can't say I see how. So he's basically saying, maybe you can teach me, but I don't see how. It hasn't happened this far. A man must partly give up being a man with women folk. So again, kind of the battle of the sexes, the battle of the idea that I have to change who I am because I communicate differently in order to accommodate you or for you to understand me. And that's kind of a universal challenge that happens. We wouldn't have all of these self-help books on how to communicate if there wasn't some of that going on. And then if you scroll down, and again, this is giving you ideas of how they're feeling. It's also telling you what the action is going on. She moved the latch a little, so she's still contemplating the idea of leaving. Don't go, he pleads with her. Don't carry it to someone else this time. So don't take your grief to someone else. Let's work through it together. Let me into your grief. So he's pleading with her. And then he also says, what was it that brought you to think of this thing, to take your mother loss of a first child? So it gives us insight. This is her first child, which we can see. This is why her grief is so intense. It would be intense regardless of what birth order the child is in. And then so inconsolably. So she's inconsolable in the face of love. Here, I love you and I can't console you. It actually kind of, their discussion reminds me of the Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston movie, The Breakup. So they're both in their own way of doing things and in their own way of grieving, that they're not understanding each other or trying to even see each other's perspectives. And there's so much emotion going on. And so that's what the author, Robert Frost, is so beautifully showing, is that dynamic that's going on. And then she's saying her side of it. If you had any feelings, you that dug with your own hand, how could you? His little grave. And so he dug the grave, but he is expressing his feelings physically, and she's saying hers verbally. And again, it's the differences of expression. So he basically had the idea that you move on with life, and you move on, and that's what he was saying to her earlier. Can't you move on? And he basically is trying to move on with life, and she is trying to still grieve for her child. And then if we go to the last page, where it talks about says, friends make pretense of following to the grave, but before one is in it, their minds are turned and making the best of their way back to life and living people and things they understand. And that also gives you an idea of human dynamics, that people go back to their lives, and you're on your own with your grief. It kind of reminds me of the Reba McEntire song, I Wish the World Would Have Stopped for My Broken Heart. And she actually, I'm not sure if she was the writer of that song, but the album that's on, she actually did that album after she went through a period of great loss when her whole band was killed in an accident. I think she was the only one that wasn't in, I don't know if it was a plane accident or a bus accident, but she was the one that wasn't on that vehicle that crashed. And so many times we feel like the world should stop, but it doesn't. It moves forward. So those are some thoughts that I had basically on this poem, and then I'll go on to the next one for you.